So I was looking into some upcoming IPOs and saw one for NSDL. You know, the National Securities Depository Limited. Seems pretty big, right?
Yeah, I saw that too. NSDL, well, it's a pretty important part of the Indian capital market. They handle securities in dematerialized form, basically digital format. It's kind of like, how we went from physical movie rentals to streaming services.
Right, that makes sense. So instead of holding paper certificates, investors have these demat accounts. I think I've heard of those.
Exactly. These accounts are held through depository participants and they allow you to hold equities, mutual funds, debt instruments, all sorts of stuff electronically. So, disclaimer, we advise investors to check with certified experts before taking any investment decisions.
Okay, that's a lot clearer. So how big is NSDL really?
Huge. As of March 2023, they had over 31 million active Demat accounts. And those account holders were in almost every PIN code in India and even in 186 countries around the world. Plus, they had almost 41,000 issuers registered with them.
Wow, that's a massive reach. What's the story behind them? I mean, how did they get so big?
Well, before NSDL, India had a lot of problems with paper-based trade settlements, bad deliveries, delays in transferring ownership, all that stuff. NSDL came in 96 to fix that by creating this digital infrastructure. And it's been growing ever since.
That makes a lot of sense. So what about the IPO itself? When is it supposed to happen?
The IPO is tentatively scheduled for March 25th to 31st, 2025. It's an offer for sale of over 57 million shares, with 35% of the shares being allocated to retail investors.
Gotcha. So it's not a fresh issue, it's just existing shareholders selling their stakes?
Right. No new money is going into the company itself. The goal is to list on both the BSE and NSE.
Okay. What about the financials? How has NSDL been performing?
Their revenue has been growing pretty steadily. In FY23, they had revenue of over 1,021 crore compared to 761 crore in FY22 and 467 crore in FY21. Net income has also increased, but their margins have actually decreased a bit.
Decreased? Why is that?
Well, their expenses have been growing faster than their revenue. In FY23, their margin was around 22.98%, down from 40.33% in FY21.
That's something to consider. I mean, are they still profitable?
Oh, definitely. They still made a healthy profit of 234.81 crore in FY23. They have a return on net worth row NW of 16.43% and a return on capital employed row CE of 21.8%. as of FY23.
Okay, those are solid numbers. So how are they valuing the company?
Well, we don't have the exact price to earnings PE ratio for the IPO yet, but we know their earnings per share EPS was around 11.74 in FY23. It's hard to say for sure until the price band is announced.
Right, makes sense. So what are the key things I should look for when deciding whether to subscribe?
I would definitely look at the price band and the valuation they're seeking. Also compare NSDL to its peers like Central Depository Services Limited CDSL. See how their RONW, margins and other metrics stack up.
Good point. CDSL is another big player in this space, right?
Exactly. CDSL had an EPS of 26.41 and a RONW of 21.95%. Comparing these figures will give you a better sense of NSDL's valuation.
Right. So it's about seeing if NSDL is worth the premium, if any. What about the gray market premium GMP? Is there any indication of what the market sentiment is?
It's still early, so there's no GMP data available yet.
Now let's move on to other details like the IPO dates.
Well, the IPO is expected to open on March 25th, 2025 and close on March 31st, 2025. The allotment date and listing date are expected sometime in April 2025.
Got it. So what are some potential risks or downsides to consider?
One thing is the declining margin, which we already touched on. Also, the IPO is entirely an offer for sale, so the company won't receive any of the proceeds. That can sometimes make investors a bit wary,
Yeah, I can see that. It's not a sign that the company needs funds for growth, more that existing investors want to cash out.
Exactly. And of course, the performance of the overall market and investor sentiment will play a big role in how the IPO performs.
Absolutely. So I guess the bottom line is to do my homework, compare the valuations, and see what the gray market is saying.
That's right. And remember, IPOs can be risky, so don't invest more than you can afford to lose. Oh, and before I forget, if you're finding all this information helpful, do like, share, and subscribe to the YouTube channel for more investing content.
Definitely good advice. Are there any specific lead managers or registrars I should know about?
Yes, the lead managers include ICICI Securities, Axis Capital, HSBC Securities, IDBI Capital, SBI Capital Markets, and Motilal Oswal Investment Advisors. The registrar is MUFG In Time India Private Limited.
Okay, those are some big names. And who are the promoters of NSDL?
Actually, NSDL doesn't have an identifiable promoter.
That's interesting. So it's more of an institutionally run organization?
Exactly. It operates more like a public utility, even though it's a private company.
Right. That makes sense given its role in the market infrastructure.
So, actually, I think it would be interesting to see how this IPO plays out. NSDL is so crucial to the Indian market that its performance could be a good indicator of overall investor confidence.
I agree. It's definitely one to watch. Thanks for breaking it down for me.
No problem. Remember to do your research and invest wisely.